This is a quick tutorial on Unit 7 regarding subject and object from the Go Grammar series of texts from Book 2. Now today we are looking at subject and object. So this builds on nicely from what you covered in Unit 6, looking at active and passive voice. And this one's perhaps a little bit more clear, a little bit easier to follow. So what we're looking at today is subject and object. And the subject of a verb, if you want to find that, you ask who or what before the verb. And in our example here, Aman opened the bowling attack. Now this has been written in italics for you because that is our verb and Aman is the person performing that action. So Aman is the subject and opened is the verb. So that's explained quite clearly here. Another example is the boys found the lost ball. So it tells us here the verb is found, so we can circle that again. And then we ask who or what found, and it's the boys. They are the ones performing that action, not the ball, the boys. The object of the sentence is the person or thing that the action of the verb is done to or directed towards. So, the subject performs the action, the object is the other object to which the action is performed. You can find the object by asking whom or what after the verb. For example, Aman opened the bowling attack. We know that opened is the verb, so what happened after the verb, the bowling attack? We would have to say that is now the object. So Aman is our subject, opened is our verb, and the bowling attack is our object. In our next example, the boys found the lost ball. Again, the verb is found. Then we need to ask whom or what, and it was the ball. The ball is the object of the verb found. The normal word order in English is subject, verb, object, which is what we see in all our examples. We can usually identify the subject and the object by their position in the sentence. John loves Mary. Mary loves John. The subject, verb, object order allows us to make sense of these two sentences. Let's go and see if we can do some activities to try and figure out how well you've understood. In this first one here, in the sentences, use a straight line to underline the subject. So let's remind ourselves. Use a wavy line to underline the object and put a circle around the verb. Now I've just done that in the instructions to remind me. Let's have a look at the first sentence. The dog grabbed the bone. Very simply, we want to look for the verb first perhaps. Grabbed is our verb. Excellent. And then if we look at the information before the verb, we've got the dog is our subject. The dog is performing the action. And then after the verb is our object. That's what is having the action performed to it. Pretty straightforward. Let's look at the next one. The little dog grabbed the large bone. We've really just got added information in this. Grabbed is our verb again. The little dog is our subject because that's what's performing the action. And then the large bone, we give a squiggly line because that's what's having the action performed to it. So that becomes the object of the sentence. Following the same sort of process, see if you can't go through and highlight the information in the rest of those sentences. Question 2, or activity 2, is perhaps a little bit more tricky, but you'll be able to do this if you follow the instruction. Each sentence below, so it's referring to the A to F here, has 3 parts: the subject, the verb, and the object. So if you really wanted to, you could follow a similar sort of pattern: subject, verb, and object. Write the appropriate parts of each sentence into the table. And here's our table here. So you should be able to fit this in quite easily. Let's look at our first sentence here, A. My best friend Toby likes my sister Laura. So what we want to do is find the subject, verb, and object. So the verb is likes. It might be easier to identify that so you can perform the next step pretty easily. So then in our subject section, we write my best friend Toby, because we know that that is the subject of the sentence. We already know that likes is the verb in the sentence, and the object in this case is my sister Laura. So it's that simple. Go through and break each of these sentences into the 3 parts. So try and chunk the information so that you've got it into these little pieces of subject, verb, and object. Excellent. Before we can move on to the next set of activities, there's some more information that we need to cover. In addition to our subject, verb, object structure sentences, we also have to look at sentences that have indirect objects. And many verbs in English have both a direct and an indirect object. The first example here, I gave the dog a bone. If we have a look at this, we can perform the same analysis that we have in the previous sentences. The verb is gave, so we can circle that. The subject is I, we can underline that. And then we ask, gave whom or what? And the answer is a bone. So there would be a squiggly line. But we can go further. A bone is the object of the verb, and then we can ask, gave a bone to whom or to what? And the answer is the dog. Therefore, the dog is the indirect object of the verb. And it's the same for this example here. In the sentence, I made Mum a cup of tea, made is our verb. The subject, again, is I. And then we ask, gave whom or what? And the answer is a cup of tea. And then we can continue to ask, the cup of tea is the object of the verb. We ask, made a cup of tea for whom or what? And the answer is Mum. Mum is the indirect object of this verb. When you have a look at these activities, you have to see if you can perform the same sort of analysis. Circle the indirect object in each of the sentences below. For the first one, my uncle bought John a bike. We know that the verb is bought. My uncle would be the subject. Bought what? A bike would be the object. Who was the bike bought for? John. John therefore becomes our indirect object in that sentence. Let's look at the second one. My aunt sent me a present. Again, sent is the verb. My aunt becomes the object. Sent what? A present. Sent who the present? Me. Therefore, me becomes the indirect object in that sentence. See how you go with the remaining activities, and that about wraps it up for unit number 9. This is an ETV production brought to you by Prindiville Catholic College.